Welcome to the Advanced Selling Podcast. A programming note before we begin. Friday, January the 28th, we'll be hosting a special event at the Jazz Kitchen in Indianapolis, thus the background music. It begins at 11:30 and ends at 1. We'll be recording 2 podcasts in front of a live audience. So if you're in or around the Indianapolis area on that day, go to advancedsellingpodcast.com/live and register. It's $12 for lunch. Now, on with the countdown. I've always wanted to say that.
This is the Advanced Selling Podcast.
I meditate. I light a candle I burn in the Northwest.
The aim of this podcast is to help business sales teams grow their business with modern strategies and philosophies. Now your hosts, Bill Caskey and Bryan Neal.
Okay, back at the Advanced Selling Podcast. Bill Caskey.
Bryan Neal.
Welcome back. One thing very quickly, this is the week that we do our first in front of a live audience Advanced Selling Podcast.
Going live.
Jazz Kitchen, Indianapolis. We've gotten a lot of emails from people across the pond.
We want people want to come 5,000 miles away. I wish they were here.
One guy says, if it weren't 5,000 miles away, I might consider it. But
maybe we should Ustream it or something.
Well, we could eventually. I think we should.
We'll see.
Not this Friday, but we can.
Okay.
January 28th, this Friday, 11:30 till 1, Jazz Kitchen. Go to Advanced Selling Podcast Live. AdvancedSellingPodcast.com/live.
Very good.
/3U2744377.
No, /live.
/live and register. $12. Get you lunch. It's Creole chicken, salad, and a drink.
And a drink.
Mm-hmm. And it's not a hard drink, but they do have a bar there, so you're welcome to.
It is a Jazz Kitchen, so we will have some music there. We're going to do live karaoke.
Rumor has it
you're going to bring them out. Bring them out.
All right.
You just never know.
A couple of shout-outs. Robert Kirk is an avid listener. Thanks for producing and sharing the podcast every week. I truly appreciate your coaching and support.
That's very
Ivan Parapanov from Bulgaria. And he is a listener. We got an email from a person.
That's probably Ivan.
Ivan.
If it's a man.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
It's Ivan.
Sorry, Ivan.
Ivan DeHaze. I think we've been through this once before. I may have referred to him wrong.
That's okay.
Got an email from a guy who's a listener. Yep. I don't think we've ever mentioned his name, but he's actually with the big G companies, with Google. And he's actually taken some of these podcasts and shares it with some of his team. And they're using it at Google to get bigger.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're somewhere. I think they're a national company now. Also, Vance Walker, he said he's the one that said, if I lived in the state, I'd be there this Friday, but thanks for all the things you do.
That's nice, Vance.
Martin Madsen talks about some of the good stuff that he actually shares it with his sales team, I believe he said.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that's good. So if you VPs of sales or sales managers, you really should be thinking about sharing this with your team. And one person that we talked to here a few weeks ago says that he actually gets his team together and listens to it at the same time and discusses it. So hopefully we're giving you good content here.
All right, good. Yeah, speaking of sales managers and VPs of sales.
Speaking of.
We are going to talk about today's topic, and it is a VP of sales manager topic. However, it does apply to everyone else also. So just because you're not a VP of sales doesn't mean you turn it off right now or delete this episode. I'd also encourage you, if you are not a VP of sales and you're listening to this, to forward it. It's a good thing to forward to your VP of sales. We're going to talk about sales talent.
Yeah.
What are some of the misconceptions? We get this question all the time. I got it this morning on a call. Is what's the process? How do I go and find sales talent? What do I do? What pitfalls are there? And that sort of thing. In our discussion, we got to talking about there are some fallacies in thinking. Some, what would you say, some counterintuitive misconceptions about what makes a good salesperson. And if you would interview a bunch of sales managers, you probably hear some of these things and go, oh yeah, those would be really good attributes when actually they're not. So we're going to take you through a couple of those. These are pitfalls to avoid as you're looking at hiring talented salespeople.
Yeah, I think the thing that I hear a lot is someone brings in a sales professional and they don't work.
Yep.
And 6 months into the agreement or the engagement, the CEO or the VP of sales calls us and says, God, this lady looks so good on paper.
Yep.
They were the perfect situation. Why aren't they working? Why aren't they producing?
Yep.
And then what happens is you go into sort of hyper control mode. Well, let's start looking at their behavior. Let's examine their calls. Let's see how many calls they're making. And if you're in that mode, it's over.
Too late.
It is over.
Be done. Shake hands and be done. It's better for both. Yep, no sense to go in and save. So
we've got 5 here that we've identified. And so if you're not a sales manager, remember, just self-analyze and ask yourself the question, have I fallen into this trap a little bit?
Yes, very, very good. And also ask yourself, as you're developing your own sales career and you're kind of looking at career options for yourself or thinking about how can I better myself, really get clear on these things to say, how am I, and are these things good things? Do I need to be better at these, and that sort of thing? So self-analyze. And if you're a sales manager, these should hit home for you.
Yeah, and these might be a little controversial too. So you might not agree, and if you don't, then we'd love to hear from you at listener@advancedsellingpodcast.com. Go ahead and send us an email.
I bet we'll get some emails.
I think we will, because this is there's some counterintuitive stuff here.
I would agree. You want to go first?
Yeah, no, you go ahead. This was yours. Number one was first.
I'll start. So number one is hiring people who have a lot of contacts in the industry. I've seen this happen time and time again, where a CEO will call me and go, Bryan, you're going to love this, man.
God,
I found this guy, and he's over here at our competitor, and he's not happy. He's looking to leave. He wants to come over. And the guy thinks he's going to bring all of his business with him, right? The salesperson thinks that. The salesperson says to the CEO, I've got phenomenal relationships. These people eat out of my hand. I am the Pied Piper.
A million Twitter followers.
Guy comes over, gets in place, starts to make his rounds. It's a little slower than we thought. And they got some problems. And then the guy who came over starts to point at some operational issues we have over here. Well,
I can't sell this.
I can't sell this. I mean, this is not what I thought. So having a lot of contacts and a lot of business in a business does not correlate to someone being a successful salesperson at a new company. It's really hard sometimes for people to switch. People are usually not loyal to people. They're usually loyal to companies.
That's right. That's right.
Keep that in mind.
That's very good. I've got a friend who has had a salesperson that has strung him along for 2 years. He's paid this guy $80,000. I got to be careful here because I think this person might listen. $80,000 to $90,000 a year for 2 years, and this is exactly why he brought this person in, is because of his contacts. He has not sold one thing in 2 years. Now, it's in the construction business, so
now they definitely know.
Yeah. So, but the point is that it all looked good on the surface, but it wasn't.
Correct.
Okay, number two, I'm going to do this one. This is what I hear a lot and see a lot, is the hiring manager will get out the resume of the person and show it to me. They'll say, look what this person did. This lady grew this division from 200,000 to 200 billion in 3 days. Or look at this profit. Look at this look at this experience. And I always say, hopefully people are not lying on their resume, but people do embellish on their resume.
Do they really?
And what they don't say is, I grew this from $1 million to 10 million because we happened to happen by one account who did $9 million with us,
right?
The federal government or something. So there's a lot of backstory to these numbers, and so you've got to be very careful about believing what you see on a resume. The translation for that is, for the person who's listening who may be out pitching themselves as a possible candidate, is be careful what you put on the resume. Don't just put all the accomplishments. Put some of how you got to the accomplishment or the backstory on it too.
The backstory is great. I am so not a fan of resumes.
I know.
For that reason, you got to prepare for resume. I just wrote down the word "spin sucks." My friend Jenny Dietrich, who has Arment Dietrich up in Chicago, PR firm. She's a wonderful person. Jenny Dietrich, you should follow her on Twitter and pay attention to what she says. Her blog, Spin Sucks. That's what resumes are. Resumes are built. If you go see a resume consultant or headhunter, they take your resume and go, you should probably change that to a percentage instead of the total number. That'll look better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's all about spin, persona.
So don't like it so. Yeah. Okay, next. You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
And you mentioned it, experienced. I got a seasoned veteran. This guy's been in the business for 25 years. Right, he knows everybody, knows the product, and knows the he could run one of our customers' companies, couldn't he? And you said before we started, do you remember what you said? Which I thought was brilliant. Don't give me some guy that's been in the business for 25 years. Give me someone who doesn't know anything, who's super curious, who wants to learn and eager, and brings a brand new perspective to the thing. Because there's no doubt there's some marginal value in knowing a lot about a business. There is also a lot of problems about knowing too much about a business.
That's right.
It's bad. So
I see this. I mean, I see this happen a lot too. With older candidates who are, maybe they've been displaced or out of work and they're going back into the workforce, or they're trying to get a new job, is a lot of companies right now are, that's age and seasoning is not an advantage for you.
No.
Unless you can not only match up the experience you have with contemporary techniques and
There you
models
go.
and methods,
Yep.
and you're a constant learner. You're
Yep.
reading, you're learning HTML, you're learning about Google and the web. You're learning all those things, and you accompany that with seasoning. It's great.
It's wonderful.
But seasoning alone ain't working.
No, people take it for granted. People think, I got 25 years in the business. I know everything.
Yeah.
If you come to me and you say that, well, I've been in the sales training business for 30 years, then I'm like,
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead.
Okay, here's one that I
Yep.
see a lot is, we sometimes hire people and we want them to look a certain way, and we have this vision of what an ideal salesperson is, and it's
Yep.
that person who's gregarious, who's outgoing, who's enthusiastic, who is vibrant and positive and bouncing off the walls. And that is, and like you said before the podcast, is some of the best salespeople are introverts.
Yes.
People who wouldn't say, you know what, if they had a you know what. I mean, they wouldn't say,
right.
they stand in the corner, but all the time they're thinking, they're creating, they're being analytical.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure bouncing off the wall enthusiasm. I've seen too many people who fail out of the business because they scare the hell out of people.
No doubt about it. And I'm sitting here thinking in my mind of my, gosh, I think of maybe out of 5 clients that I'm thinking of sales forces that are sizable in terms of 15 to 25 salespeople, the number one salesperson at each of those 5 clients is completely introverted and almost awkward in a couple of cases where they are not gregarious and outgoing and grab handy at all. Is that a word? Grab handy?
I didn't know what that meant.
What? Glad handy.
Glad handy. Grab handy. I don't think they are.
Sorry. Okay, last one.
Yep.
And this might stir some things up, especially from the male sales management regime, is competitiveness.
Yeah.
Where we looked at someone and go, "This guy's a killer. He's got a killer instinct, man. Look, he played college football. The guy knows how to just destroy people." Because what you tend to get there, you'll get some results from someone like that, and you'll also get a trail of dead bodies behind you. They'll just run over people. They'll run over people, your customers, but more importantly, they'll run over people internally if they're hyper competitive. So you have to be really, really careful if you're looking as that as a real positive attribute.
Yeah, because what happens there is we get so fixated on beating out the other vendor that we forget that maybe we shouldn't even be pursuing this piece of business in the first place.
Correct.
Because it's not right. As we talked in the last podcast about how are we filtering our prospects? Are we filtering through them any kind of a prism that allows us to discern, or if they're breathing, they're a prospect and they make it to our pipeline?
Yeah.
Hang on a second. So competitiveness, to me, you can take your eye off the real ball, which is, can I help the customer?
Yeah.
And nor do you want to be competitive with the customer. You're on the same side of the table with the customer. You don't. But competitiveness is there's ambition to me is a better way to look at that than competitiveness. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
If you must.
In competitiveness also, you have to think about it's about winning. And I can win deals and lose money way too often. And for a highly competitive person, it's more about winning the deal. They put the regard for sometimes profit and income on the back burner because they want the deal so bad.
Yeah, that's good. And another thing, if I may enrich that and take that to the next step.
Would you please?
Is, a lot of times today you are in competition with another vendor, but you're also in collaboration with them. And so you might, if you get too competitive, then you start to have a little angst around being in the same room with your competition.
Yeah.
And the fact is that you have competitors who probably you could do some joint venturing with or affiliation with.
That's
because
very good.
they may have products you don't have, you may have customers they don't have. And so as long as I have that competitive, I'm better than everybody else and I'm out to win, you're not going to automatically drop to that.
It's a very abundant attitude, Bill.
It is abundant.
Very good.
Yeah.
So if you're not a sales manager, take personal inventory, ask yourself, look in the mirror, gosh, man, I am an industry veteran and I've stopped learning, and then start learning or do something like that.
I'm a slob
If you're
is what I am.
hyper competitive, stop being so competitive and
sloth.
figure out how it hurts you. And then and forward this to your sales managers and VPs of sales. Maybe it'll help them out.
Okay, don't forget January 28th, this Friday, Advanced Selling Podcast. If you can't be in the country or can't be in the state for it, we'll make sure that we get some crowd noise and we get some Q&A going. So, and then in the future, we'll look at maybe doing a Ustream live
that'd be fun.
piece. Also, March 17th, San Jose, San Francisco area. We're going to be doing another
Area.
one. And we've got some folks over at the Black Diamond Paving Company who are going to be sponsoring it. So good job for them.
Black Diamond
and
Paving.
Mike and Jeff and the folks over there. So we'll see you out west here in a few weeks, but see you this Friday at the Jazz Kitchen.
Bye.
Bye.